So every year for my birthday, I literally do the same thing. Like I don't do the big parties. I don't do the elaborate dinners where I'm running around in heels, making sure everybody else is good while I am secretly exhausted. I like to actually book flights and go make memories. And this year is no different. Welcome to Bali. We're back. So your girl is back from Bali officially, and you guys already knew like I wasn't gonna go all the way to Bali and come back without giving you the gist. Tabi. Even before I left, like I knew I didn't want to do the whole typical come with me to Bali vlog, day one, day two, here's everything that I ate. Nah, because genuinely, like when I travel, I really do like living in the moment. And as much as I'm a content creator, I like to live in the moment as well. Like, of course, I filmed, I made content, I posted on my Instagram stories quite often, really. But there were also a lot of moments where my camera simply just wasn't out. And I think that's probably why I enjoyed this trip as much as I did. Granted that I did have a videographer, so he carried a lot of the content, responsibilities, which I loved. But, guys, I enjoyed Bali so much. Oh, Omo, I feel not come back, oh. I'm back to this rainy bipolar Lagos weather. One minute it's sunny, the sun is out. Next minute, everywhere is looking like the world is about to end. Meanwhile, somewhere in Bali, somebody is sitting beside a pool eating an acai bowl. Like, oh God, I've seen what you've done for others, so do it for me. Before I even get into the video, I left for Bali weighing about 64 kilograms. And I was scared though. I was like, Biko, I don't want to lose any more weight before I disappear, please. And I weighed myself again yesterday and now I'm 66. So I did put on about 2 kg, which is not really bad. So Bali did not finish me. We survived. But I am really happy to be back, to be able to get back into my routine because listen, you can't be on holiday forever. I'm somebody who loves routine. I miss training, in my home gym and I just missed being at home. And as chaotic as Lagos is, there's like that element of Lagos that you just miss. If you know, you know. So I wanted to give you guys a recap of my Bali trip. I didn't actually do anything on my birthday. Bali was the birthday. Like on my birthday itself, like there was no big itinerary. There was no, okay, 10 a.m. breakfast, 12 activity, 3 p.m. photo shoot, 7 p.m. dinner, 10 p.m. club. Like I just wanted to rest. And I've realized as I've gotten older that I've deconstructed so many ideas about what we're supposed to do, birthdays included. Like there was a time when I thought a birthday had to have an event attached to it. There had to be a dinner. There had to be, this extravagant outfit, even though I did a birthday photo shoot and that dress was not cheap. But this idea that there has to be people, there has to be some grand moment where we're like, yes, this is my birthday. Now, the trip was, like I said, the birthday. I flew myself halfway across the world, booked beautiful places, ate really good food, woke up when I wanted to wake up, rested. And to me, that was enough. Like I've realized I actually like to rest. And I know that doesn't sound revolutionary, but we live in this culture where even relaxation has somehow become another thing that we need to optimize. So people asking, what activities did you do on your birthday? Nothing. I laid down and it was fantastic. And I was in this beautiful villa, so I enjoyed myself. But obviously, I didn't fly all the way to Bali just to remain horizontal for 3 weeks. Once birthday Sandra had finished resting, regular Sandra eventually decided to come outside and see what all the hype was about. And now I get the Bali hype. So before I went, Bali was one of those places where I just kept thinking, like, is it really that good? Because everybody goes to Bali. Every other Instagram reel, Bali. Every digital nomad, Bali. Every wellness babe on Instagram, Bali. Every man who has suddenly discovered spirituality, he goes to Bali. And sometimes when some place gets that hyped, I almost become suspicious. Like I'm like, surely all of you cannot be having the time of your lives in the same exact place. But I get it. After visiting and being there for about 3 weeks, I completely do get the Bali hype. Now, the first thing that really stood out to me was how easy everyday life felt. Food was easy, gym was easy, getting coffee easy, doing your laundry easy, transportation easy. If you needed something delivered, it was easy. And maybe because I live in Lagos, so convenience is something that I noticed immediately because in Lagos, sometimes one small errand can turn into like a full character building exercise. You know what I'm saying? Like a whole day just to get something done. But in Bali, I could wake up, I could walk down the road, grab breakfast, walk to the gym, train, stop at a cafe, come home, shower, and still feel like I had an entire day ahead of me. I was literally walking everywhere. Like I would walk to the room, walk to the gym, walk to get coffee, and I loved that. There's something really nice about living somewhere where your environment naturally encourages you to get outside. Now, disclaimer, I stayed primarily in Canggu. So when I say Bali, I'm obviously speaking from the part of Bali that I personally experienced. And Canggu is busy. People had warned me that Canggu is going to be really busy. It's not really the real Bali. There's traffic. And maybe I'm broken from living in Lagos because I got there and I really thought to myself, this is what you call busy? Like, it actually reminded me of Lagos in certain ways. There's always something happening, like restaurants everywhere, people everywhere, gyms, cafes, beach clubs, bikes flying past you every 3 seconds. There's an energy to it, and I genuinely like that. And that's the experience that I wanted. Like if I wanted absolute silence and nothing happening around me, maybe I would feel differently to have stayed in Canggu, but I like having access to things. I like being able to walk outside and decide what I want to do. And Canggu gave me that feeling that I wanted. And because everything is so close together, or everything was so close together, it was very easy to settle into a routine. So I could train, I could eat well, I could get some work done and still feel like I was on holiday. So I did enjoy staying in Canggu. I did get the opportunity to visit other places like Ubud. I shot some content there. It's beautiful, but it just really wasn't my vibe. It was too quiet. I'm sorry. I like noise a little bit, just a little bit of noise when I want noise, and also like quiet when I would retreat back into my villa. And yeah, I did love where I stayed. Ugh, the cafe and fitness culture. Now, the cafe culture in Bali is ridiculous. And obviously, as someone who's, into fitness and nutrition, Bali was basically a playground. Protein pancakes, eggs, smoothie bowls, acai bowls, fresh fruit, good coffee, healthy meals, high protein options. And then if you don't want any of that, you can also go and eat whatever the hell you want wherever. Like when I packed for this trip, I only packed my pre-workout. I was like, I should pack some whey protein. Like, even if it was just like put some whey protein, like scoop some protein in the bag, because I was going to be gone for 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And I just decided not to. And I kind of like regretted it on my way. I was like, Sandra, you should have at least packed something, like, even if it's just like 2 scoops of whey protein. But then I get to my villa, and the next day I decided to just kind of like walk around and just see what was, in the environment. And literally, like, down the street from my villa was this protein cafe. And I go inside because I'm like, ooh, let me check this out. And they only sell protein shakes. And I was like, yes. So like that kind of vibe where you don't really need to stress yourself about, like, if you're a health conscious person, you're a fitness person, if you are into supplements, Bali is literally like a playground for fit people. That's what I loved. Like, it wasn't this, I'm in a wellness destination, therefore I have to eat leaves for 14 days. There was also balance. And a lot of restaurants actually did make it easy to know what you were eating as well. Like, some places listed calories, some listed macros, some had like this build your own plate menus where you could choose your protein, your carbs, your veggies, your sauces, everything. So for someone like me, that's incredibly convenient. But I also ate for enjoyment because I'm in Bali. Please. So the food culture in Bali ties directly into the fitness culture because Bali takes fitness serious. Now I wanted to talk about the gyms. Now, you know me, I cannot enter another country and not investigate their gyms. Like, it's impossible. Some people travel and they look for like museums, clubs. I travel and I'm Googling what's the best gym near me, and the gyms in Bali are not playing. I'm talking about proper strength equipment, functional training areas, high rock spaces, pools, saunas, cold plunges, recovery rooms, cafes. Some of these places are not even gyms anymore. They're basically like fitness resorts. So fitness didn't feel like some separate obligation that you had to squeeze into your day. It felt woven into the lifestyle. So you'd see people walking around in activewear, people going to train, people leaving Pilates, people grabbing smoothies, people running, and even like the cafe where you go and eat after your workout, you would see other people that you saw in the gym eating at the same place. So when your environment is like that, being active becomes incredibly easy. And I felt like right at home. You know what I'm saying? I checked out a few gyms while I was there, and that's gonna come up separately because I have a few things to say. Some were incredible, some were very crowded, some had me looking at the day pass prices like, am I buying equity in this gym? Okay, but I'll get into that in my next video. And I feel like this is where I think Bali started doing something to me, because once I had settled into my little routine of gym, food, cafes, and walking around Canggu, I started thinking like, okay, like, Sandra, you did not come all the way over here just to live your normal life in a prettier location. Like, do something. And apparently I took that instruction very, very seriously, and I did, and I enjoyed it.
This one's dancing.
Hello, baby. So my first proper introduction to adventurous Bali was very gentle. I went to the Bali Zoo, and I did get to spend time around the elephants, which was not really a new thing. You know, I've been to South Africa where I did that, Kenya, same thing. But it's a cool experience because you're standing there thinking like, this animal is huge, and pictures don't really prepare you for how massive they are when you're standing right beside one. So yeah, we got to interact with them, feed them, and there was also an opportunity to get into the water as part of the elephant bathing experience. And this is where my adventurous side left the chats. You know, everybody was getting to the water, and I was like, me, enter water with elephants. I got a big go. I am too Nigerian for that. And my brain immediately started calculating diseases that did not even exist. Because imagine I travel all the way to Bali for my birthday, come back, and I start scratching. And then I, you know, croak, croak. And somebody asks me, oh, Sandra, what happened? And I'll say, oh, elephants. So absolutely not. I did not get inside that water. I did enjoy that particular portion from a respectful distance. And that brings me to the whitewater rafting that I did. Now, if you know anything about me, you would know that I'm not exactly a water babe. Like, I like water from land, you know, so I can stand on the like shore and just be looking at it. Oh, it's so pretty, so beautiful. You know, I like to drink water. I don't really like being in water. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very Nigerian when it comes to water. So the fact that I did agree to do like a whitewater activity, that already deserves an applause. But what nobody properly explained to me was that before I could even see the raft, apparently we had to complete a pilgrimage. So guys, the stairs, the walking, the climbing that we had to do, we descended through the valley of the shadow of death just to reach this river. And at some point I was thinking like, is the activity the rafting, or is the activity getting to the rafting? Because why have I already completed cardio and all this leg exercise before the activity has even started? And the annoying thing is, after all that complaining, once we actually got onto the water, I had so much fun, like genuinely. But I was also acting a fool inside that raft. All right, now everybody, let's go. Nigeria. Forward pedal, everybody. Look at me barely doing anything. This is fun. I should do this every single day. You know what? This is not that bad. I'm just being dramatic. I was genuinely just being dramatic. Like the moments where I was just screaming, moments where I just couldn't stop laughing, and moments where I was questioning my decisions. But all in all, I loved it. And I think rafting is where I started understanding why people enjoy doing these things on holiday, because at home, would I wake up on a random Wednesday morning and say, what would improve my day? Being thrown around inside a raft? Absolutely not. I would not do that. But when you travel, there's something about being outside your normal environment that makes you just a little bit more willing to say yes. So I said yes to the rafting, had fun. At some point, my social battery ran out because it was a 2-hour activity. And I was like, ugh, can we just pack this raft so I can go home? So that's me. Like, I can have fun for a bit, for a period of time. But after that, I'm like, I just want to go. I want to go and lay down. Apparently, my new willingness to say yes needed to be exploited immediately, because not long after that, I found myself on an ATV. Did enjoy this activity a little bit. It was quite bumpy, but there's something about like putting on a helmet and suddenly believing that you're in Fast and Furious that I enjoyed. So you're driving through mud, through little trails, through greenery, and for approximately about 45 minutes, you genuinely believe that you're an action star until you hit one pothole and remember that you're somebody's daughter. So this activity was quite messy. It was fast paced. I couldn't bring my phone to film anything, because there was mud flying everywhere and we were actually moving. So unfortunately, I don't have any footage from this activity that I did. But trust me, it was fun. But again, it was messy. Not really my favorite, but by this point, I was beginning to get a little too confident. I had survived the water, I had survived the ATV, and Bali Sandra was starting to believe that she was very adventurous. This activity was messy, it was fast paced. I couldn't bring my phone along to film anything because there was mud literally flying everywhere and we were moving super fast. So I don't have any footage from this activity as I would have liked, but it was fun. For someone who is deathly afraid of heights, I decided I was gonna go ziplining. And this was the last big activity that I did. So I went to this place called U Funfield, and I genuinely don't know what possessed me to agree to this. Like, I am genuinely afraid of heights. And this is not one of those cute little hee hee, heights make me nervous situations. Like, no, I don't like being high up at all. But by this point, I had to convince myself, you're in Bali, be adventurous, try something different, step outside of your shell. Meanwhile, my parents are somewhere at home praying for my safety, praying for their daughter to come back home in one piece. And their daughter is in Indonesia, voluntarily getting strapped into a harness so that somebody can push her off a platform. But I genuinely enjoyed it. I had fun. It was scary at first, but it was so much fun. I think the worst part about activities like this is the waiting, because once they put that harness on you and you're standing there watching other people go, your brain suddenly has enough time to reconsider every single decision that brought you to that exact moment. And I was looking at the guide like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Get this thing off me. And of course, I have to remember that nobody sent me or nobody forced me. In fact, I paid for this. Like, I could literally be somewhere at the beach right now, but I had already committed. So got the harness on, got the helmet on, put my pride on the line, and we move. And once I got pushed off, everything just felt so effortless. Like, it was so much fun. Once I was actually moving, it was incredible. It was terrifying, but again, it's a zip line. It's not really like I went bungee jumping or skydiving. I feel like those are just I would never do. But never say never. I might, But when I think about the activities that I did on this trip, this is probably the one that represents what I wanted from Bali the most. Not because I suddenly want to become like this adrenaline junkie. So please, let's not get carried away, okay? But because I wanted to come here and occasionally just do things that I wouldn't normally do. Sometimes it does feel good to scare yourself a little and then get to the other side and think, okay, I actually did that and it wasn't that bad. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. But let's not ruin a beautiful memory by asking too many questions. And funny enough, as much as I really did enjoy all of these activities, when I think about my favorite parts of Bali, like some of the best moments weren't the scheduled activities at all. It was just the simple mundane things like just walking to the cafe or the gym and also like meeting people. People that I met during my trip, I feel like just was my favorite part. And I think that's another big misconception that people have about solo travel. Solo travel doesn't mean you spend 3 weeks without speaking to another human being. If anything, I think I meet more people when I travel alone because you're more approachable if you want to be, if you make yourself approachable, so you're not like inside your little group or bubble. You actually look around, you start conversations, people start conversations with you. I met people at the gym. I met people while I was out. I met other travelers. I met content creators. I met people who had moved to Bali and had been living there for years. And like I said, I met other influencers and I got to collaborate with a few. And that was genuinely like one of the highlights for me because I like meeting other creatives and creating things together. So people were also just very friendly in Bali. It felt like a different atmosphere because, again, meeting people also depends, like, it also depends on where you go. When I went to Dubai, people were very, I don't know, like, Dubai had a very people were just too focused on themselves, versus Bali, people were actually very warm and friendly and people would come up to you and talk to you and like compliment you and things. I didn't really get that vibe in Dubai. Maybe that's why I didn't really connect with that many people when I was there. But yes, it depends on where you go. And Bali, the people were just very friendly, like the foreigners, the tourists, and also like obviously like the indigens. It felt like a different atmosphere and everyone seemed to have a story as well. So you can meet someone from the UK or France who came to Bali for 2 weeks and 2 years later they're still there. And you're like, so this place has collected you. But yeah, those conversations started planting a dangerous little seed in my head. Like, could I actually live here? Maybe I can move here, not forever, but maybe like 6 months, maybe a year, who knows? Maybe anything is possible. But yeah, I think like holidaying somewhere and living somewhere are obviously completely different experiences, but Bali was one of the first places in a while where I genuinely thought like I could actually see myself having a life here for a period of time, but before we start relocating, okay, we need to discuss another important part of cultural research, which is nightlife. Now, I know some of you think because I don't party every weekend, I don't drink alcohol, that I don't know how to have a good time. Please. Please, 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 please. I may not be a party person. I am not the person that you're going to see at the club every Friday and Saturday. I usually am extremely happy being in my house. But when I travel, I do like experiencing nightlife. I'm an international culture enjoyer. I may not be somebody who parties all the time, like I said, but when it is time to party, I know what to do. And nightlife is part of experiencing a destination as well. Like, I came across this meme that said, oh, I don't go to clubs. I would rather book a flight and then club internationally. It's like, I was like, yes, I can relate. I decided to go to an Afro night at this club called Mesa, and take me back. Carry me. Okay, take me back. Like, I almost didn't leave. Like, the DJ was behaving as if he personally wanted me to miss my flights. Okay, I'm talking about banga after banga after banga. And there's something about like hearing Afro beats while you're halfway across the world that just hits completely differently. It's one thing to hear Afro beats in a club in Lagos, like, it's expected. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in a completely different country, vibes just hit so differently. Suddenly you're hearing a song that you've heard 700 times in Lagos and you're behaving as if they just released it that evening. And I had such a good time. And that night really summed up something that I liked about Bali as well. you can decide what kind of day you want to have. So you can literally be like a wellness babe in the morning, gym, smoothie, sauna, cold plunge, meditation, Pilates, and then 11 p.m., you're outside. So both can coexist. And speaking of places where both relaxation and outside somehow coexist, obviously I can't go to Bali without going to Fins. So Fins is one of those places that you hear about before you even arrive in Bali. And it is big, okay? Pool, it's like this huge beach club. So it has pools, music, food, people everywhere, sunset. It's basically an entire day out disguised as a beach club. Now, what I liked about it was that you could decide what kind of experience you wanted. You could relax, you could eat, you could just chill, you could swim, you could people watch, you could dance, and you could basically arrive in the afternoon and suddenly look at the time and wonder where your entire day went. And also, like, I don't know what it is. Maybe I arrived there looking very approachable because I was getting compliments about my physique, and a lot of like different men just offering to buy me drinks. I was like, I was scared though. I said, did you people know I was coming? Do you get? So now, like I said, I don't drink alcohol. You guys already know me. So buying me a drink is always slightly wasted game, okay? But I also don't need alcohol to have a good time. And Fins was definitely like a good time. It wasn't necessarily like my favorite music compared to the Afro night. Mesa had me in a chokehold, okay? I'm still trying to remove the chain. But the atmosphere at Fins was really nice. And you already know one of my favorite activities is minding everybody else's business from a safe distance. Okay, people watching, 10 out of 10. I could sit there for hours, but I did dance, and there was this one white girl that kept on following me around. I was eyeing her. I said, "Oh, who sent you?" So yeah, but it was fun. I had fun. And I'm someone who genuinely just enjoys their own company. Like I could literally I have so much confidence. I just went to, the little dance floor, what do they call it, where everybody was, and I was just there by myself, and I was just like vibing and dancing, and people were approaching me, and I was very warm and approachable. It was fun. It was a good time. Fins did give me that stereotypical Bali holiday moment, sun going down, music playing, everybody outside, pool in front of you, and you're just sitting there thinking like, yeah, life is actually quite nice. And I think that combination is what surprised me most about Bali. Now, I expected Bali to feel very touristy, and obviously Canggu is touristy. Let me not lie, but somehow I didn't mind because it still felt like somewhere that I could settle into a routine and simultaneously play tourist. And that's important to me because I don't enjoy traveling somewhere and feeling like every single day needs to be this excursion. I don't want to come back from holiday needing another holiday to recover from that holiday. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like being able to live, wake up, train, eat, work if I need to, walk around, come back, and then every once in a while do something ridiculous like get thrown down a river or pushed off of a zipline platform. So Bali gave me both, and that's really what I enjoyed, that feeling. So it felt like a holiday without constantly requiring me to perform being on holiday. And that is why I extended my stay for another week. And it also made traveling alone feel incredibly easy. And that brings me to the topic of solo traveling. So obviously I did this trip solo, and I've only traveled solo, really and truly. I've done 11 countries so far solo by myself. And that brings me to something that people ask me all the time, like, don't you get bored? Like, don't you get lonely? Don't you get scared? And the short answer is no. Like I said, I genuinely enjoy my own company. I'm alone a lot, even when I'm at home, like I'm alone. So like me eating by myself or sitting down by myself is not strange to me. Going somewhere by myself isn't strange. Training alone isn't strange to me. Sitting in a cafe by myself is not strange to me. Even going to the club by myself, I don't need another person beside me for an experience to become valid to me. And I think that's where people sometimes misunderstand solo travel. You don't necessarily travel alone because you hate people. You travel alone because you're comfortable enough with yourself that another person's availability doesn't determine whether you get to experience your life. And that is a very different thing, because I remember my first solo trip was 2023. I went to South Africa. Even before that, like I was trying to plan like this little group trip, and the trip never left the group chat. And I was like, listen, if I continue to wait on other people before I decide to experience life, I'm never going to experience anything. So I booked a trip to South Africa. And of course, I was scared. I was like, oh my goodness. I was dotting all my I's and crossing all my T's. But it really changed my perspective on a lot of things. But I'm going to get into that a little bit more towards the end of the video. Freedom that you have when you solo travel, like for me, I'm speaking from me, is unmatched. So if I wake up and decide, actually, I don't want to do that today, canceled. No meeting, no big committee, no checking in with the WhatsApp group, no somebody telling me, oh, but I already got dressed. Nah. If I want to eat at 4 p.m., I eat at 4. If I want to stay somewhere for another hour, I can stay. If I want to go home, I go home. If I feel like walking, I walk. If I want to spend my entire birthday doing absolutely nothing, guess what? Nobody can tell me, oh, but we came all the way to Bali. I don't need somebody telling me, oh, let's go to the club and get drunk. No, you know? So there's something to me that's just incredibly freeing about having a period of time where every decision belongs entirely to you. And I understand when people say that they love shared experiences. I like shared experiences as well, but I don't force them. Now, does that mean that solo travel is this magic experience where you never wish somebody was there? Like I said, no, I do like shared experiences as well. There are moments where something happens and you're like, oh, damn, I wish somebody I loved saw that. There are meals where you think, oh, I wish somebody was sitting across from me. Or there are moments when having another person there would make something easier, or just sharing a particular experience with somebody would be nice. And also like taking your own pictures as well. But I'm a content creator, so I always either outsource a photographer or videographer, or I have someone there already. So that alone can humble you if you don't have anybody there. But occasionally wanting company isn't the same thing as being incapable of enjoying your own company. And for me, the benefits outweigh those little moments every single time. And I think the fact that I felt so comfortable there alone is part of why by the end of the trip, I wasn't just asking whether I'd visit again. I was asking something slightly more dangerous. Can I live here? So would I go back to Bali? And the short answer is yes, absolutely, no hesitation. In fact, that is the problem, because I genuinely started considering moving here and living there for a while. There's a quality of life there that appealed to me. The convenience, like I said, the fitness culture, I feel mostly the food, the cafes, the people, the fact that there's always something to do, but you don't actually have to be doing something all the time. But on the other hand, I'm like, it reminds me so much of Lagos, and it's like, what better quality of life would I have here? I don't know. And yes, I know, like I said, visiting somewhere on holiday is completely different from actually moving there and living there. So I also give credit to that. But I did leave a bit curious. And I think that's one of the best things that a trip can do. You arrive thinking that you're simply going somewhere for your birthday, and you leave questioning whether you could build like an entirely different version of your life there. But yeah. So now that I've given you the full gist of the trip, let me give you my actual verdict. What I loved and what I didn't. First of all, I absolutely loved, like I've said it many times, the convenience. And I love how fitness is genuinely infused into the lifestyle instead of being treated like an afterthought. So like I said, there are gyms everywhere. Okay, gym in Bali is basically like church in Nigeria. Everywhere you turn, gym. Another gym, another gym. You know, I was like, ah, yes, these are my people. I've been looking for you. So the cafes and restaurants also being so health conscious was another huge plus for me. You know, high protein menus, macros listed on meals, you know, build your own bowls and plates where you can actually like choose exactly what goes into your food. I think that level of convenience around eating well is not something that you find everywhere. I also loved how close everything was, at least around the part of Canggu where I stayed. You know, if you're someone like me who genuinely enjoys walking, you don't necessarily need transportation every single time that you leave the house or the villa or wherever you're staying. So I would walk to the gym, I would walk back home, walk to the room, walk to get coffee, and I was naturally getting so much movement in without really thinking about it. And Bali still gives you that holiday feeling while somehow allowing you to maintain some structure. That's another thing that I liked. So like I said, you could wake up, go to one of these like massive gyms, train, eat breakfast there, use the sauna, sit by the pool, because these gyms are basically entire wellness clubs. And then later after that, you can go to the beach club, you can hit, you know, go to dinner, you can go out if you still want to, and still be home at a reasonable time if you wanted. So there's just a really nice balance to the lifestyle. And when I said that Bali also reminded me a lot of Lagos, is the roads. Okay, so they had potholes, they had open gutters, yes, bad roads, absolutely. And there were definitely moments where I looked around like, ah, this one I know. Is this the road to my village? Did you get like it just looks so familiar? Like, but then again, like I also like the convenience. It reminded me of home. So if you needed something like your laundry done, somebody could come pick it up, bring it back the next day or in a few hours. You don't need to book an appointment 3 weeks in advance for every small thing. That's also what I liked. So a lot of places you could simply walk in and get what you needed done, and that's literally Lagos for you. So the major difference is that Bali genuinely feels like a holiday destination. So you see tourists everywhere, people from different countries, people who came for 2 weeks, people who stayed for 6 months, who stayed for 2 years, people who somehow arrived in 2023 and never left. So Lagos doesn't really have that same tourist atmosphere. Most foreigners that you see here living in Lagos are probably there for work or they're expats. So it doesn't feel like thousands of people are flying into Lagos just to spend 3 weeks relaxing, training, and exploring, unless it's like Dirty December. But even at that, that's mostly really for like Nigerians that live abroad that come home. Another thing that I liked was also like the transportation. Oh my goodness, Bali runs on bikes. And again, reminds me of Lagos, you know? I remember even being in the car at some point heading back to my villa one day, and the villa was literally like 2 minutes away. But because of traffic in Canggu, that 2 minute journey was somehow 15, 20 minutes. And I said, absolutely not. I got out of the car and I got on the bike, and I was like, you can either adapt or perish. So I did like that about Bali, was like the transportation, you know, it was very convenient. So what did I not like about Bali? And honestly, not that much. I think part of the reason why is because some of the things that people complain about Bali or Canggu specifically, okay, it didn't feel particularly shocking to me because again, I live in Lagos. So is it traffic that I have not seen? If you can survive traffic in Lagos, my dear, you can survive anything in this world. I have been in traffic for 8 hours. Is it bad road? I've seen it. I see it every day. Is it chaos? Please, Nigeria is the definition of organized chaos. But one thing I will say, and I'm specifically talking about Canggu because, like I said, that's where I stayed, is that it isn't particularly pedestrian friendly. And I know I just spent half this video talking about how much I walked, but those things can both be true. You can walk, but sometimes you are walking on faith. So the roads are very narrow. In some places, there's barely even like a pavement or a sidewalk, and bikes and cars are constantly coming past you. There were definitely moments where I was walking thinking one wrong step here and I'm inside somebody's nyash. Honestly, like you genuinely have to pay attention. You always constantly have to look over your shoulder because the bikes are like moving really fast. And sometimes you're even walking on the road with the cars. But one thing that I did notice is that a lot of the bikers would slow down or actually stop to let you cross, which was really, really nice. Don't try that confidence in Lagos, so they no saying your papa. In Lagos, you'll be standing there like making eye contact with the driver, thinking, surely this guy has seen me, he will stop for me. My sister, please wait until the road is actually clear, because in Lagos, they will jam you and continue their journey. So no, Bali isn't perfect, but overall, the things that I did like about Bali massively outweighed the things that I didn't. And I just liked the feeling. It wasn't really that much about the environment. It was just a feeling. And again, that properly explained why I extended my stay for another few days and why I came home already thinking about when I could go back. So I think I did catch the Bali bug, and I'm not mad at it. I don't think Bali gave me some dramatic, like life-changing revelation. I didn't find myself, I wasn't lost, my sister. I didn't like climb a mountain and suddenly understand the meaning of life. I travel quite often. I love to travel. It was actually much simpler than that. I rested, I trained, I ate, I laughed, I met new people, I collaborated, I did things that also scared me a little bit. I spent time by myself. I celebrated another year of my life exactly how I wanted to. I'm very grateful for the life that I've been able to curate for myself. And that to me is enough. Like I said, I find happiness in the smallest things. And sometimes a good trip doesn't need to change your life. Sometimes it just reminds you that you actually have a good life. And like I said, I'm grateful for that. And it also reminds you that you like yourself within it. So traveling solo is such a confidence booster, like genuinely mad. It's a mad confidence booster. And that's where I'll bring back, talking about my first solo trip to South Africa. There's something about proving to yourself that you can navigate a new place, make decisions on your own, eat alone, explore alone, figure things out when something goes wrong, and still have an amazing time. So it changes the way you carry yourself as well. So now, whenever I feel timid or anxious about something, I literally have to remind myself, like, girl, remember who you are. You've taken yourself across the world many times, handled unfamiliar places on your own, and created like beautiful experiences for yourself. So you can handle this as well. So this trip started with the annual tradition, why I choose to leave every year for my birthday and make memories. And that's it. That was Bali. And I have now given you guys the full gist, what I did, what I ate, where I went, who I met. Did I tell you guys who I met? I don't know. What I loved, what irritated me, and whether I would go back. Yeah. But for now, I am back in Lagos, back to work, back to reality, back to wondering whether it's going to rain or be 35 degrees in the next 10 minutes. But like I said, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad and happy to be back into my routine. I'm a routine girly. So yeah, another birthday, another country, another memory. Now I am going to be planning my next trip. So yeah, until the next one, if you have been to Bali before, tell me, what part you love the most. And if you haven't, would you go alone? Are you also like a solo traveler? Yeah, let me know in the comments. I will see you guys in my next video.